I never imagined that the moment my life would fall apart wouldn't be the day I lost my wife, or the day I closed the doors of the family business. It would be the day my own son, the boy I raised through every storm, sent me a $990,000 bill and told me I owed him that money for a wedding I wasn't even allowed to attend. Yes, almost $1 million for a wedding he banned me from. It happened on a quiet Tuesday morning. The sunlight was soft. The house felt peaceful, almost calm in a strange way. I had just made my coffee when I heard the email notification on my phone. At first, I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was another ad, another spam message. But when I tapped the screen and saw my son's name, my heart did something strange, a mix between hope and fear. I opened the message, and there it was, a formal invoice with a signature at the bottom, a neatly calculated total, $989,742.16. My son, Ethan, had listed every detail. Venue, $250,000. Catering, $160,000. Designer dress, $84,000. Live orchestra, $120,000. Luxury photography package, $52,000. Destination honeymoon, $215,000. Emotional damages caused by family stress, $48,000. I froze. I read the message 3 times before I truly understood what I was looking at. Then I scrolled down and saw the final line. Since you refuse to be part of my life, you can at least pay for the wedding you should have paid for. Refused? Me? He wrote as if I had abandoned him, as if I was the one who decided to cut ties. He didn't mention how I had begged him to talk to me, how I had called him every week, how I tried to apologize for things I didn't even understand, how he slowly pushed me out of his life after meeting his fiancée's family. But that wasn't even the worst part. The final sentence felt like a dagger. Mom will walk me down the aisle instead. I didn't even know his mother was going to be there. My ex-wife, who abandoned us when Ethan was 8, who disappeared for 15 years and only reappeared after my business went bankrupt. Suddenly, everything clicked. My son didn't ban me from the wedding. He replaced me, and now he wanted me to pay for that replacement. My vision blurred. My hands shook. The room felt too small, too quiet. I whispered the words out loud, just to believe them. Want me to pay for a wedding I'm not invited to. I sat down in my kitchen chair and let the silence swallow me whole. Something inside me shifted that day. Not anger. Not yet. Just a cold realization. This wasn't about a wedding. This was about everything I never knew was happening behind my back. And I had no idea, none at all, how deep this betrayal went. Before all of this, before the bill, before the wedding drama, Ethan and I had a good relationship. At least, that's what I thought. We weren't perfect, but I gave that boy everything I had. When his mother left, Ethan was 8. She simply disappeared. No goodbye letter. No explanation. One day she was there, and the next morning I found her closet empty and the wedding ring on the kitchen table. For months, Ethan barely spoke to anyone. He would cry at night when he thought I couldn't hear him. I would sit outside his room and listen, powerless, wishing I could do something more to protect him from the truth. So I became both parents, mom and dad at the same time. I cooked, I cleaned, I worked long nights to keep our home. I attended every school play, every sports game, even the ones he begged me not to go to because he thought other kids would laugh at him for having just one parent in the audience. But I went anyway, because I knew he needed to see me there. When he grew older, Ethan became quiet. Not distant, just thoughtful. He wasn't the kind of teenager who rebelled or caused problems. He focused on school, his future. He wanted to become an engineer, and I supported him in every way. I paid for tutors, classes, college applications. Even when money got tight, I hid the stress from him. Then, when he turned 23, he met her, Emily. She was beautiful, charming, and very different from us. While Ethan grew up with simple things, homemade dinners, old cars, quiet routines, Emily came from a very wealthy family. A family of lawyers, influencers, and polished perfection. At first, I was happy for him. I thought he had found happiness. But over time, things changed. He stopped coming around as often. Phone calls became shorter, colder. He canceled family dinners 3 times in a row. Then one day, he said something I will never forget. "Dad, maybe it's better if we take some space. Emily thinks you're intense." Intense? Me? I had never yelled at them, never interfered or criticized. But suddenly, everything I did became wrong. If I asked how he was, I was controlling. If I invited him for dinner, I was clingy. If I gave him advice, I was overstepping. Then came the moment that truly broke something in me. He introduced Emily to his mother before introducing her to me, his mother, the woman who left him wounded for half his childhood. And when I questioned it, he said, "Dad, you always make things difficult. Mom is trying. Why can't you?" That night, I cried for the first time in years. Not because he hurt me, but because I felt I was losing him. Piece by piece, day by day, and I had no idea why. What I didn't know then was that the wedding was only the beginning. A carefully crafted plan that I was never meant to be part of. A plan that would cost me nearly $1 million. If I didn't stop it, the wedding date was announced publicly before my son told me anything privately. That hurt more than I expected. I found out through a social media post. Emily's mother had uploaded a picture of them at a wedding planning brunch. I scrolled and scrolled until I found the caption. "Can't wait for the big day, June 17th. That was my first sign. The second sign came when the invitations were sent. Everyone in Ethan's circle got one. His friend from high school, his coworkers, even neighbors he barely spoke to. Everyone except me. I tried not to assume the worst. Maybe it got lost. Maybe they were still printing more. But my gut knew something wasn't right. So I called him. "Hey, son, I saw the date online. Congratulations. Should I expect an invitation soon?" There was silence, not confusion, not surprise, just silence. Then he said, "Oh, yeah, about that. Emily and I talked, and we feel it's best if you don't come." I felt the floor open under me. "What? Ethan, what happened? Why would you say that?" He exhaled like he'd been waiting to deliver this speech. "Dad, you make things awkward. You always show up emotional, and you don't get along with Emily's parents. They want the wedding to be calm." "Calm? What had I done? I've never disrespected them," I said quietly. "You don't fit the atmosphere," he replied. "Emily's family is high profile. They want the wedding to be elegant. Also, it's complicated. Mom is walking me down the aisle." Mom, the woman who walked out on him. I grabbed the counter, steadying myself. "Ethan, you're choosing her over me? After everything?" He sighed. "Dad, stop making this dramatic. You'll embarrass everyone. It's better if you just watch the video afterward." I couldn't believe my ears. "So I'm not invited to my own son's wedding?" "Dad, don't make this a big deal. And please don't contact Emily. It stresses her out." He hung up. No goodbye. No explanation. Nothing. That night, I sat alone in the living room, staring at the old photographs on the wall. Ethan's childhood pictures, his graduation photo, us fishing by the lake, all the memories of a life we built together. How did we get here? I had supported him through everything, but somehow I had become the enemy. And yet, even then, even after being banned, I never imagined he would go so far as to send me that bill. I never imagined betrayal was deeper than a wedding. I never imagined they planned to use me from the start. But the truth was coming, piece by painful piece. And when it arrived, it would change everything. 1 week after the heartbreaking phone call, the email arrived. It wasn't written by Ethan. It was written by Emily's mother, addressed to me as if I were a business associate, not a human being. The subject, outstanding balance, urgent. I opened the email. At first glance, I thought it was a mistake, a wrong recipient, a spam message. But no, it had Ethan's signature at the bottom, and attached was the invoice, almost $1 million. For a wedding I wasn't even invited to, for a honeymoon I wasn't supposed to know about. I scrolled, stunned. The tone of the message was cold, sharp, almost insulting. Since you chose to distance yourself from Ethan during this very special time, the financial obligations fall to you as a father. Distance myself? They were rewriting reality. There were lines like, your refusal to participate emotionally places financial responsibility on you. As a father, it is appropriate that you cover these costs. Ethan deserves a wedding worthy of his status and achievements, which you failed to support. Failed? I had held that boy's hand through every struggle, but their version of events painted me as some absent, uncaring parent. I kept reading. Please transfer the amount within 14 days to avoid legal action. Legal action. For a wedding I wasn't allowed to attend. But what truly shattered me wasn't the number. It was the attachment at the bottom. Wedding seating list final. I opened it. The list had columns of names, beautifully arranged. Tables labeled by flowers. Orchid, rose, lavender. I scrolled. At the top of table 1, next to the bride and groom, was her name. Mother of the groom, Linda Smith, my ex-wife. And under father of the groom, nothing. Just an empty space. I felt something inside me collapse. Slowly, quietly. They had replaced me completely. Emotionally. Socially. Symbolically. And now they wanted my money on top of it. I put the phone down and stared at the wall for what felt like hours. My breathing was shallow. My hands numb. How could Ethan allow this? How could he sign something like this? How could he turn me into a wallet instead of father? That night, I didn't sleep. Not even a minute. I walked around the house, touching old frames, old books, old memories, trying to understand where everything went wrong. But there was nothing to understand. The truth was simple. I had been betrayed by the person I trusted most. And somewhere inside me, something finally snapped. Not with rage, not with bitterness, with clarity. If they wanted to treat me like I didn't matter, then fine. But I was no fool. I knew something was off. I knew this wasn't just about money or a wedding. There was more, much more, and I was going to find out. The next morning, I woke up with a strange calmness, a clarity I hadn't felt in months. I decided one thing clearly. I was done being the victim. If my son truly believed I owed him $1 million, then something or someone had poisoned his mind deeply, and I needed to know who and why. So I began digging, not out of malice, but out of self-defense. First, I contacted an old friend, Marcus, a retired lawyer. He looked over the invoice and immediately frowned. "This is nonsense," he said. "They're bluffing. They can't force you to pay for a wedding you didn't agree to." That was my first breath of relief. Then he added, "But this level of manipulation? This smells like someone is trying to control your son." Control. The word echoed inside me. I decided to investigate quietly. No confrontations. No messages to Ethan. I started with Emily's family. Her father was wealthy, but not as wealthy as they portrayed themselves online. Their mansion? Rented. Their luxury cars? Leased. Their business? Barely afloat. Interesting. Then, through public records, I found something that made my stomach twist. For years ago, Emily's parents had filed for bankruptcy. 2 years ago, they had been sued for fraud involving business investments. Now things were making sense. Ethan wasn't marrying into wealth. He was marrying into financial desperation. And guess who was the perfect target? Me, the responsible father. The stable one. The easy wallet. Their entire wedding was a show. A performance designed to impress society, restore their reputation, and use my son as a poster child. And banning me from the ceremony? That was strategic. If I wasn't present, no one could ask questions. No one could see the truth. No one could notice the cracks in the perfect image they were trying to build. But I didn't stop there. I hired a private investigator. Yes, it sounds extreme, but when you're being handed $1 million bill, extreme becomes reasonable. Within a week, he found something even worse. Emily's mother had been emailing Ethan daily, manipulating him with lies about me. Sentences like, "Your father abandoned you emotionally. He never cared about your dreams. He is jealous of our family status. He will embarrass you at the wedding. He said horrible things about your future wife. None of this was true. Not one word. She had slowly rewritten the narrative of Ethan's childhood, piece by piece, memory by memory, turning me into the villain so they could disconnect him from me financially and emotionally, then use him, then use me. When the investigators shared screenshots, my hands shook so violently I had to sit down. My son had been brainwashed, manipulated, brought into a world of status games and illusions. And now I finally understood the invoice. It was their way of forcing me to participate, to fund their fantasy, to keep up their image. But I wasn't going to fund anything, and I wasn't going to stay silent. If they wanted a war, they had just declared the wrong one. June 17th arrived like a storm. I wasn't invited, but I went anyway, not to cause drama, not to embarrass my son, but because I needed the truth exposed in the clearest, calmest way possible. The venue was a castle-like estate, lavish, over-decorated, the kind of place you rent when you're trying to convince the world you're richer than you really are. I didn't go inside. I didn't sneak in or interrupt anything. I simply sat in the garden area where guests entered, quietly waiting with a small folder in my hand. Inside it were the bankruptcy documents, the fraud lawsuits, the manipulation emails, and a legal statement from Marcus confirming their invoice was a scam. I was not there to ruin the wedding. I was there to save my son before it was too late. When Ethan arrived, he looked handsome but stressed. He saw me and froze. "Dad, what are you doing here? I told you not to come. Emily will freak out." I stood slowly. "Ethan, I'm not here to fight. I'm here because you need to know the truth before you sign documents that could destroy your life." He frowned. "What documents?" I took a breath. "The prenuptial agreement they gave you. The one that makes you responsible for all their family debts. The one that allows them access to your accounts. The one that protects them, not you." His face went pale. "How do you know about that?" "Because I know your mother-in-law's real intentions," I said softly. "And I have proof." He hesitated, torn between anger and curiosity. So I handed him the folder. Watching his expression change was one of the most painful moments of my life. At first, he was annoyed, then confused, then shocked. By the time he reached the screenshots of the emails, he sat down on the stone bench behind him, breathing heavily. "Dad, did she really say all this? She told me you hated Emily, that you didn't want me to be happy, that you were bitter from the divorce." I sat beside him. "Ethan, I've never hated anyone you love. I only wanted to be part of your life." He rubbed his face, overwhelmed. "I thought Mom had changed. I thought Emily's parents wanted what was best for us. I didn't know they were in trouble. They needed you," I said gently. "Not for love, not for family, for money." He looked broken, but aware. "They banned you from the wedding to keep you quiet," he whispered. I nodded. "And the invoice? That was the final move." He closed the folder. "I need to think." I touched his shoulder. "I'll wait outside. Whatever you decide, I'll accept." He walked slowly back toward the venue doors. And I sat there, wondering which choice he would make. Love or illusion, truth or manipulation, a father or a fantasy family built on lies. I waited for 20 minutes. 20 long, heavy minutes. Then the doors opened. But it wasn't Ethan who walked out. It was Emily's mother. Furious, stiff, eyes full of manufactured outrage. "How dare you?" she hissed. "You are ruining everything." I didn't respond. She stormed closer. "You poor, jealous man. You can't stand that he found a better family." Still I stayed silent. She pointed a shaking finger at me. "You think your little folder changes anything? He belongs with us." Before I could say a word, a voice echoed behind her. "No, I don't." She froze. We both turned. It was Ethan. His face was calm but cold, a look I had never seen on him before. "Mom, you lied to me," he said quietly. "You manipulated me." Emily's mother blinked rapidly. "Sweetheart, everything I did was to protect you." He cut her off. "No, everything you did was to use me. You poisoned me against my father. You hid your debts from me, and you tried to trap me into financially supporting your entire lifestyle. She looked around, panicked. Guests were staring. Whispers were starting. Ethan continued, I'm not signing the prenup. I'm not paying for this wedding. And I'm not marrying into a system built on lies. Emily appeared behind her mother, tears in her eyes. Ethan, please, this is our day. He shook his head. You knew they were lying about my father. You let them turn me against him. I just didn't want problems, she whispered. And now you have them, he replied. Then he turned to me. Dad, can we go home? I swallowed hard. Of course, son. He stepped away from the venue, away from the glittering decorations, away from the cameras and whispered gossip. Emily reached out to grab his arm. Ethan, come back. Don't walk away. But he didn't look back. When we reached the parking lot, he stopped and exhaled shakily. Dad, I'm so sorry. I didn't see it. I didn't want to see it. I put a hand on his back. You're here now. That's what matters. He nodded. I thought they cared about me. I thought they loved me for who I was. But they loved what I could give them. Not me. We sat in my car for a while, both silent. He finally spoke. Thank you for showing up today, even when I didn't deserve it. I smiled sadly. That's what fathers do. He looked down. Can we start over? I squeezed his hand. Anytime. And in that moment, the $1 million scam, the manipulation, the betrayal, all of it became the background noise of a much larger truth. Sometimes the most painful betrayals lead you back to what matters most. Family, real family, the kind built on love, not money. Looking back, the whole experience taught me more about life than any book, any speech, or any advice ever could. Betrayal hurts, especially when it comes from the people we love most. But sometimes betrayal is a mirror. It forces you to see what was hidden, to face what you ignored, to understand who truly stand with you, and who only stands next to you when they need something. I learned 4 big lessons. 1, not everyone who says family means it. Some people use the word like a ticket to your wallet, your reputation, your stability. Family is not DNA. Family is loyalty. 2, silence protects manipulators. Truth destroys them. If I had stayed quiet, Ethan's life would have been tied to a family built on lies. 1 calm confrontation saved him from years of regret. 3, a father's love doesn't disappear, even when a child is misled. I could have turned my back on him when he turned on me. But love is patient. Love waits. Love shows up. 4, forgiveness creates the future. Blame only repeats the past. I didn't want revenge in the end. Not really. I wanted my son back. And forgiveness made that possible. The day Ethan walked away from that wedding, he didn't just walk away from manipulation. He walked toward truth, toward growth, toward family. Today, our relationship is stronger than ever, not because everything became perfect, but because we finally understood each other. He sees me clearly, and I see him clearly too, not as a child I needed to protect, but as a man finding his own strength. Sometimes the people who betray us are the ones who guide us to the right path, not because they cared, but because their betrayal forced us to open our eyes. And sometimes the greatest revenge is simply living in truth, peace, and love, while those who try to break you crumble under the weight of their own lies.